can't tell you what a great pleasure it always is to talk to you.
Well,
but
vice versa.
Especially in this setting, because, like, you know, we've had dinner. I mean, we've been out, we've done shows, but if I really want to talk to somebody, I want to talk to them right here, smoking pot, drinking, breaking down whatever barriers. So I'm going to try to get you very fucked up. I know you taught at Berkeley in the 60s. So you must have...
I never did.
Weed?
No, never.
Even in the Berkeley in the 60s?
I was never even offered it, actually.
Well, you know what? There's no time like the present.
No, I'm going to do it. Not in public, not in...
I see. Well, you won't mind if I do.
Of course not.
Okay.
No.
And what about a drink?
No, thanks.
No?
I got water now.
You don't drink either?
I do drink, but only with food.
Oh, but doesn't that... I'm the opposite, because food is a buzzkill.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Food kind of like absorbs the high, or kills it.
Yes, okay.
I mean, whenever I eat, it's always like when the fun is over. Sex, drinking, drugs, it's like that has to go. Because once you eat, then all you want to do is like something passive. Or me. I mean, I'm like a wolf or some animal that must be in your books about, like, why did we develop that way where we eat and then sleep?
Yes. I think many animals do that.
I know, but why? It must be part of evolution.
Yeah.
Didn't you ever come across that?
I've never thought about it.
Really?
No.
Oh. Does it help us survive? It doesn't seem like napping is like the greatest tool to like help people survive. But we do it. I mean, like, lions, you see them.
They sleep much of the time.
Right.
Yeah.
But I guess when you're an animal, you sleep with one eye open all the time, right?
Since night is a very different environment from day, and no animal can be perfectly adapted to live in either of those things. If you're good at living by night or bad by day, and vice versa. And so sleeping is a good way of keeping out of mischief during the off period.
And you say it works the opposite way for nocturnal animals.
Yes.
They're not really that comfortable in the day. Must be hard to be that. I mean, when you're asleep, you're like the most vulnerable, right?
Yes, but you're going to be vulnerable anyway, so it's better to be passive and not moving around.
Right. But it's also got to be kind of a detriment to be at your most vulnerable asleep when it's bright out, because then people can see you sleeping.
Yes. But there is a living to be made at night, and so
yes.
I mean, it's true, and a very large number of mammals are nocturnal.
I see a possum around here.
Yes.
Sometimes, like and he's very chill. He does not. He crawls outside the living room. I can watch him. Sometimes he looks up and sees me. It does not freak him out at all. He's not scared. He doesn't move faster. He just sniffs around and then goes back up wherever.
Is this by day or night?
Night.
Night, yes.
Night. Always at night.
Have we started, by the way?
What?
Have we started?
Oh yes.
Yeah. Okay, fine.
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
I know. I should explain. This is a different kind of.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's the whole point. Yeah. Is like, have we? What universe are we really in?
Yes.
But no, we've started, and hopefully we'll go on for quite a long time. I know you have a new book. What is it called? The Flights of Fantasy?
Flights of Fantasy.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed like something that is not right in your... I mean, I have so many books of yours about evolutionary biology, but this is really not that.
Well, it is sort of.
I figured it was.
It's partly about how animals fly, but also how humans do as well. So it's partly the physics of flight, and it's partly the evolution of flight. So true flight has evolved 4 times in birds, bats, pterosaurs, and insects.
Really? You mean got better? Like better flying capabilities?
Yes. I mean, they fly properly in the sense that they stay up indefinitely. There are plenty of other animals that glide. So they just sort of fall,
Right.
but in a controlled way. Lots of them, flying squirrels,
And
flying
some birds
foxes.
can't get off the ground at all, right?
That's true, yes.
Yeah.
There's a lovely line in Douglas Adams' Last Chance to See about this New Zealand bird, the kakapo, which it's flightless. Douglas says, it's forgotten how to fly, but it's forgotten that it's forgotten how to fly. So it climbs to the top
Yeah.
of a tree, launches itself off, and plummets to the ground. So it's evolved an inability to fly, and its nervous system hasn't yet caught up with that.
Wow.
That's his interpretation.
How does it still live? Doesn't it wind up killing itself?
It's on the way out, I'm sorry to say.
Yeah.
That's why he went and studied it. It's a book about animals that are vulnerable to extinction.
Jack Parr, who was the host of The Tonight Show before Johnny Carson, way back, before my time, but I heard about him. And one of his favorite things I heard was he got this film of animals drunk.
Yes.
And you can, birds like trying to take off and fucking it up.
Yes.
And I guess they do get drunk on...
well, they get drunk on berries that are fruits that have gone bad. And
oh, right. Sure.
Presumably how we discovered alcohol as well, I imagine, was
Right. It just... Isn't that grapes are fermented? But you're right. It's really, they've gone bad.
Anything will ferment, and so...
Right. Well, that certainly was a banner day in human history because it changed a lot, really.
Yeah, it did, yes.
I mean, not all bad.
No.
Right?
No.
I mean, Romans certainly had bacchanalias and really worshipped being drunk.
Yes.
Yeah, I think they understood that it was sort of something that was more important than just having fun. There's some sort of release there that I don't know if everyone needs it. You don't. Plainly, I do.
Well,
but
I enjoy it with food, as I say.
Right.
So.
But you don't. But I'm talking about people who get fucking blitzed. There's something about people. Well, people are always trying to not be themselves. What is acting? What is
Yeah.
They're trying to escape reality and
Do you try to not be yourself?
No, I'm not typical in many ways. I also, never got married, never had kids. I'm not sure I do a lot of things that it would be considered normal, but we all have masks, don't you think?
Yes,
I mean,
that's right.
Some of them are more profound, but I think everybody has. Sometimes it's defenses, but sometimes it's just, I don't want you to know who I really am, or I'm playing a part that I would rather be than me. I know people who literally don't know their own age.
Mm-hmm.
They've lied about it for so long.
Oh, yes, yeah.
And they must know the year.
Yes.
They just don't go there.
Yes.
I don't think they're faking it either.
Yes, yeah.
Now that's kind of fascinating, isn't it?
I'm pretty comfortable being who I am, I think. I don't think I try to pretend to be.
Yes, you and me, we're comfortable, but I'm talking about others.
Yes, yes.
There's a lot of that. I mean, you're what, 81?
Yes.
Wow, you look great.
Thank you.
Yeah, you don't look it. It's nice if you don't. I mean, I'm 66, so I'm be very curious as to what you have to say about age and aging, because yours obviously is what I'm looking at in my, not tomorrow, but next phase. I mean, let's be honest, it only goes one way, time. I've tried to move it.
That's right, yes.
It's the most irrecuperable thing, isn't it?
Yes. Somebody said the trouble with prolonging life is it all comes at the end.
Meaning that it's good at the end?
No.
Oh.
Meaning the reverse.
That's funny because I like my life so much better now.
Yes.
Than when I was young, even though I'm aware of that little detriment of I'll be deader soon, or that little thing is obviously, the monster that's always chasing us. But as far as the life itself, I wouldn't go back, even if I could be younger, if I still had the brain I had then.
I would hate to go back in. I mean, I couldn't bear to write all those books again. I mean, and struggling through life again, I couldn't bear that. I'm looking forward to writing books in the future, but I wouldn't go back and go through all that stuff about being an Oxford professor and things. And I wouldn't go through that again. No.
But at the time, you enjoyed it.
I enjoyed it at the time. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I just know that if somebody said, if the genie said you could be 30 again, but you have to have the 30-year-old brain that I knew I had, I just know I'm in for so much unnecessary pain and stupid things I'm going to do, and that I don't do anymore. I'm so much more like comfortable, and there are very few days that are shit. The only thing that can really cause a shit day is health issues.
Yes.
Which become obviously the thing that we care more than anything else about.
Yes.
In a way that I never even thought about that shit when I was 30.
Yes. Well, I had a stroke about 6 years ago. It was fairly minor. Well, it didn't feel minor at the time, but
Right.
I seem to have recovered totally from it.
Totally.
Yeah.
Oh, John Fetterman. Do you know who that is?
I've heard. I only just started reading about that. Yeah.
Yeah, he's the Senate candidate. Is it Senate or governor? I think Senate in Pennsylvania, which is a very important state for our upcoming midterm election.
Yes.
Swing state. It's where Biden is from.
Yes.
Or originally he votes in Delaware, but Pennsylvania's huge, and so one the candidates is Dr. Oz. He was a doctor on TV. Who sold sometimes very questionable...
Is he a real doctor?
Yeah. That is the question all of America is asking Dr. Dawkins.
Right, okay.
Is he a real doctor? I am a medical skeptic, meaning I just question everything. I think it's somebody, a scientist like you.
I know you. It's the only bad thing about you.
Why? You think there's only one answer about...
No, I don't think that. But I mean, you're such a hero of science in all other
Exactly,
respects.
which is why I have this point of view.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know exactly what my point of view is, or maybe you're just going by things other people...
I kind of do.
Okay, well, I'm not an anti-vaxxer.
Okay.
I believe vaccines are a medical intervention like every other drug, which has some drawbacks, benefits. I don't believe that everybody has the same health profile. So every medical intervention, just like any other drug, isn't appropriate for everybody.
Yes, that's true.
So that's not anti-science.
There is something about vaccination, though, which makes it different, which is that it's not just for you. It's for
Well, that's not
society.
right with COVID.
Sorry?
That's not right with COVID because we found out the vaccine does not prevent transmission or getting it. So that argument is at best out of date.
Well, it's certainly right for measles, mumps, and rubella.
Well, I already had measles, mumps, and rubella. So
what, the disease or the vaccine?
Both, probably.
Okay, yeah.
When I was a kid,
I've had measles as a child before the vaccine was invented. I think I've had mumps too. I'm not sure about that.
Well, I'm not an anti-measles vaccine crusader. I mean, do your thing, but the issue now is COVID, and that is an outdated argument. It's only for you. And there's 16,000 doctors and scientists signed something called the Barrington Letter. Did you hear about this? Okay, well, see, stuff doesn't get in other people's silos, but that's an awful lot. And that's just the ones who are brave enough to sign it, because anytime you go against the prevailing pharmaceutical medical view, you're intimidated, as many doctors are. So the fact that 16,000 doctors would sign this letter, it was a dissent about how we were dealing with COVID and some basic things like thinking natural immunity is superior to pharmaceutical immunity. It wasn't anti-vax, it was just, why are those doctors quacks or wrong, and the CDC and the Western medicine who said the vaccine, no, look, the vaccine obviously saved a lot of lives, but they were wrong about the transmission. They were wrong about getting it. Why are those 16,000 doctors, why are your doctors better than my doctors?
I don't know about those 16,000 doctors.
Well, it's true.
I just know the COVID pandemic has been a triumph of science in the speed with which these vaccines were developed, and it's a beautiful story.
Agreed.
As soon as
only part of the story.
As soon as the virus was sequenced, as soon as the RNA of the virus was sequenced, immediately they got to work. And by the way, the technique of which they've developed, the mRNA technique, is then going to be adapted to other viruses when these come along. As soon as it's sequenced, they'll be able to produce it. All that a vaccine is doing is just doing the same as the immune system, but doing it in a harmless way.
Well, at best, yes, that's how it's supposed to work. It's also like any medical intervention, every drug is supposed to do that, mimic something that your body should do naturally, but is not. But as we know, every medical intervention, including vaccines, you can read the literature for all of them, will say they have side effects. So it's not exactly mimicking what your body does. And it should be anyone's personal right to say, you know what I know has always worked for me, my immune system. No, would I say that about every pathogen? Of course not. I've said it many times. There are vaccines I would fight you for. But COVID was not one of them. I think it, and we know from the literature, from the facts, it killed mostly elderly people and obese people. That's who mostly died. Now, there are many other reasons why you could have a compromised health situation. We don't know everything about it. But I certainly should have the right to judge how I want to treat my own body.
Yes, well, we disagreed about, I was surprised to hear you say you thought that the herd immunity thing didn't work. I think that's just...
I never mentioned herd immunity.
No, well, I did, and then I thought you said the argument for herd immunity was not important. The idea that provided enough people get vaccinated, then the epidemic has nowhere to go. The virus has nowhere to go. But
it didn't work that way. This head of the CDC just got like her 4th shot, I think, and then got COVID 3 weeks later.
Well, that's an anecdote. We don't believe in that.
It's not an anecdote, but it's an anecdote that is very typical.
Yeah.
I remember when I was fine for 14 months without it. I got the vaccine. Then, like a month later, I got COVID. Okay.
But that's an anecdote.
What?
It's just an anecdote.
Okay, but I'm getting to a point.
Yeah.
When it happened, people said, "Oh, wow, that's weird. That's a breakthrough case." And then it became, the story changed, the news changed, the facts changed. And the facts changed to, that's actually very typical. When it happened to me, people were surprised. In 6 months, they weren't surprised because that was a more typical. Yes, you're right. There was a heroic scientific moment when they came up with the vaccine so quickly, faster than they thought. And it is a different technology than the old vaccines. It is a completely different way to do a vaccine. We're calling it a vaccine because it's a shot, but it's a very different way to do it. Okay. So I think it's a superior way to do it.
Yeah,
and
I do too.
I'm glad they came up with that technology because there could be something around the corner. They may be making it in a lab in Boston right now because they've been fucking with that, making a worse version of COVID, where again, I would be first online. But I just didn't think this one merited that for me, and I think I was right.
Okay. Well, I think we both agree. We both love science, and
I do. Right.
And I think that the DNA technology that it had incidentally gave rise to these vaccines is just marvelous. The fact that we can actually sequence get the sequence of anything, any animal, any plant, any fungus, any bacterium, and it's a gosh, Darwin would have loved it.
What do you think that the implications of that are for cancer?
Well, the same mRNA technique probably can be used to develop vaccines against certain kinds of cancer. Cancers are, as you know, somatic mutations that you say you get evolution, natural selection going on in the body. So a cancer is evolving to get better at being a cancer.
Right.
And so from a Darwinian point of view, it's grim, but it's fascinating as well. It's natural selection in action.
Why do you think we have not been able to crack that one? Why can't you go to a doctor and the doctor say, oh, you have cancer, we know exactly what caused it, oh, and we know exactly
Yeah,
how
I think it's because the cancer cells are your own cells, and so although it's easy to kill, or relatively easy to kill
invaders.
invaders, because the
Right.
cancer cells are your own cells
Right.
with just maybe one mutation.
Right.
And so when they give you chemotherapy or something, it kills the cancer, but it almost kills you at the same time because it's
Right.
your own cells.
I mean, that seems like, I mean, that's what we have. We're getting better with therapies for cancer, but we still, a lot of what we have is, it reminds me of the Russian army. Let's just fucking kill everything.
Yes.
And then maybe a city will grow back, but like first, and that, you know, see, this is again my thing with vaccines. Like, I don't think vaccines are evil. I just, until they figure out basic things like what causes cancer, and there are so many influences inside my body going on, and we don't know how they mix together, and they don't ask, they don't study what kind of metals are in your body. These things really affect your health.
Well,
I know you can't quantify them usually on a chart at a regular doctor's office. They don't even ask you what you eat. What are you putting in your body? Do you live near a lot of electromagnetic energy? There's lots of stuff that isn't crazy. It's scientific. And we don't know what is causing cancer. So, like, I'd like to keep it as natural as I can, unless it's an emergency. I have the same basic philosophy about vaccines as I do about antibiotics. Am I glad they exist? Yes. Would I like to avoid them if at all possible? Yes, because I know I'd rather handle it naturally. That's not unscientific.
no, I like to encourage science to proceed and to improve and to work further. In the case of COVID, it was a case of working extremely fast. It was a brand new thing. Nobody knew about it.
Right.
Learning on the job. Naturally, they made mistakes. Learning on the job, they made plenty of mistakes to begin with. And I'm still learning, and it probably have to go on learning. And as new mutant strains pop up, I have to learn again.
We are brought to you by SignalWire. SignalWire powers the future of cloud communications. Built by the tech OGs, the original geeks of software-defined telecom, their mission is to make it simple for you to build whatever you can imagine using real-time voice, video, or text messaging. The OGs at SignalWire have spent decades solving the most complex and awkward problems in communications. The only thing they can't help you with is when at Christmas your wife wanted a diamond bracelet and you somehow heard that as Dustbuster. But for the computer-related communications problems, SignalWire has you covered. From broadcast quality video to ultra-low latency voice and messaging, SignalWire has the APIs and SDKs to create unique and intelligent communications experiences, from within existing applications or websites, or building a new app from scratch. Join the millions of other customers like Amazon, Ring, and Home Depot who are using SignalWire technology to build the communications experiences of the future. And in the spirit of the holiday season, SignalWire wants to give you a gift. Visit signalwire.com/random and claim a free t-shirt when you sign up for a demo. Go to signalwire.com/random and claim your free t-shirt. Go to signalwire.com/random. You did hear about this thing in the lab in Boston, right? That they've made a worse version of COVID?
I didn't hear that.
Oh,
no.
yeah.
What?
Well, I mean, it's this, gain of function, is that what they call it? Where they think that that's maybe how COVID started in the lab in Wuhan to begin with, is that there was this gain of function. I think that's the term.
I haven't heard that phrase. I've heard the theory, which my friend Matt Ridley is keen on that. Have you ever had Matt Ridley on your show?
No, should I?
You should.
Okay.
Yeah, he's
well, anybody you recommend?
He's a great science writer. He's at the present he's written a book together with a woman pushing the idea, which is an unfashionable idea, but he's pushing it, that it did indeed leak from a lab in China.
Well, of course. See, this is again why this whole issue should never become political. In this country, it became hyper-political. If you thought the virus started in the lab, you were a Republican somehow. And if you thought it started in the wet markets with bats, you were a liberal. That's insane.
It is insane.
It is insane.
It's a very depressing fact that, and Steven Pinker goes on, I'm sure you've had him.
And love him.
Yeah, I love him too. He's very keen on the idea, well, he's depressed by the idea that what we believe depends upon what our tribe, our political tribe, our religious tribe. If you're a Republican, you believe something. If you're a Democrat, you believe something else. What matters is evidence, never mind what is politics. And so, okay, we agree about that.
Now, did you read recently that they discovered for the first time a bacteria that is visible to the naked eye?
I'm not totally surprised.
Really? They said it would be like finding a human the size of Mount Everest.
Yes, that's right. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Go ahead.
No,
well,
you tell me.
When I hear something like that, again, it just says to me, all the people who are saying, the science, we have the science. You don't know shit. We know a lot more than we used to. We just don't know very much, like how to cure cancer, and that there could be a bacteria the size of Mount Everest. They just found out all that they were doing therapy-wise with serotonin, thinking that was causing depression. Wrong. There was one paper in 2006. It had wrong information. They knew it at the time. They didn't care. What else? Metabolism, they found out, does not slow in age like they thought it did. We just don't know.
Science progresses from ignorance.
Right.
And so it's important to recognize what we don't know.
Thank you.
But also what we do know. And there are things we do know.
And way more than we used to. I mean, can you imagine being somebody in the Middle Ages, or even, really up until 100 years ago, and the things that doctors did to you made it so much worse.
Bleeding you and...
Well, putting dirt in wounds.
one of the things that my found when the CFI, the Centre for Inquiry, which I know you've supported.
Yes, great.
One of the things we're doing at the moment is lawsuits against selling homeopathic remedies as on the same shelf as other things. And that can't be right, because homeopathic remedies contain no active ingredient.
Yeah.
But the reason why...
I'm so sorry, but I always want to know about this. And I need you to explain it. Homeopathic. Just go back and tell me what that is. I'm very vague on it.
It comes from the idea that
same.
Homeo. So
right.
you take what might be a poison, what might be something that makes you ill, and you dilute it and dilute it and dilute it and dilute it, and then so it's the same stuff.
Right.
And that, hence the word homeo from the Greek.
Right.
And they believe that a tiny, tiny, tiny amount, they believe that the more dilute it is, the better it is. And so sometimes the approved level of dilution is such that it's equivalent to one molecule in a volume the size of the universe, the size of the solar system.
Right.
So if you imagine doing a double-blind control trial to test experimental against control, there can be no difference between experimental and control. They're both water.
Because
so we've got this lawsuit going against that. How did I get into this?
Because
oh yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
No,
I'm sorry, I interrupted you. Sorry, I needed to know what homeopathic was before you. I think it's something with homeopathic, because you said homeopathic, and I was like,
yes.
Oh, before you go on with this, just tell me what.
Too.
Yeah,
it'll come to me what I was going to say.
Okay. Well, are you on a book tour right now? Are you on the?
No, I'm not on the book tour.
When is the book tour for Flights of Fantasy?
It looks though there won't be one. So I'm here for the conference of the charity that I'm involved in. It's called the SciCon conference, and we had it in Las Vegas because hotels are cheap in Las Vegas because
Yeah, it's
in the
Las
basement.
Vegas.
Yes.
Yeah. And you can go to the titty bar after, you can go see a show.
Yes.
Oh, the Michael Jackson Cirque du Soleil one, I recommend it highly.
Yeah.
Forget about the kid stuff. Just enjoy the music.
Yes. It's been a great conference. I gave you the Richard Dawkins Award a few years ago.
Yes, you did. I still have it.
Yes.
It was actually, I hate to tell you, it was a lot more than a few years. It was 2009.
Okay, yes.
Okay.
Well, that was a high spot for me.
I still have it. It's that I know it's that great fossil.
Yeah. Well, this year we had Neil deGrasse Tyson,
Of course.
whom I love.
I just had him on my show Friday.
I know.
Yeah, I love him.
I think he's terrific. He's such
he's
a warm character.
Oh
So
my God!
yeah.
And what a communicator!
Yes,
And
yeah.
no, I mean the world is lucky to have you, him, Sam Harris, who's coming.
just coming,
He's
yes.
be here in a half hour.
Yeah.
I mean, there are some great scientific communicators. I mean, I think it's very important. I mean, the night we went to that award show, as you may recall, my girlfriend at the time
Yes.
was a scientist.
Yes.
A young, beautiful one,
Yes,
like in a
yes.
James Bond movie,
Yes.
but a real scientist.
Yes.
And I mean, I found that immensely attractive. I just thought it was so cool. And anytime I had like fuzzy scientific notions in my head, I'd ask her, and she would like straighten me out. I mean, just like you and I just had a discussion, people don't always see exactly eye to eye.
No, that's the beauty of science. You wouldn't
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's
Yes.
yeah.
Well, we enjoyed having you that year very much, and,
it was fun.
Would like to get you involved in our setup
course.
again.
You mean it's an event out here, like it was
every
that
year.
night?
Every year.
Every year.
Yes.
So what do you want me to do? Like 10 minutes? You want me to do some God material?
We'll write to you.
And that is so funny about you. People, when they hear the name Richard Dawkins, like I'm sure when, just the man in the street who knows that name, the thing that comes to their mind, first, atheist,
Yes.
which really is like not the main part of your oeuvre.
Well, thank you for that. I agree. Thank you.
Right.
Yes.
It's not.
No.
No, you're almost like a guy who got a sitcom. He got known as the office creep or something, but he's really a great actor. Not that your God book was the office creep. I played the office creep. But it's like you got known for something that isn't the main thing, although that book is just a fucking awesome book. I mean, I will always swear by that's my Bible on my bed.
Oh, lovely.
The God Delusion. Well, you know that. I love that. Well, I mean, I interviewed you we walked around on that windy, cold day in 2006. That was for Religulous. Do you remember?
Oh, yes. But I think I was cut out of the final show.
I think we just agreed too much. It was a comedy.
Yes.
And you were just so reasonable.
It was in Avebury, was it?
Yes.
Yes. It was
Avebury.
the Stone Circle.
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, I still treasure the memory, but yes, for a movie that was aiming to be funny, I mean, it was much better to have the guy who thought he was Jesus Christ, and So, when you make a documentary like that, you just don't know what.
Is that still available? Is that on Netflix?
Oh, absolutely, and still doing well.
Yes, oh, great.
It was so embraced. Because it's funny. It was never mean-spirited, that movie. We weren't laughing at religious people. Oh, who am I kidding? We were laughing very much at religious people.
I was going to say,
we were doing it in a very nice way.
Yes.
But, so you're not going to do a book tour for this?
No, I wouldn't mind doing a book tour for it, but the publishers don't seem to be very active in America, which is a pity. I don't quite know.
Oh, is that right?
Oh, I think I do know. I think I was being cancelled or something.
What'd you do now?
That's right.
You're such a troublemaker.
American publishers was scared of the young people in their organization, who are all woke to a fault.
Right.
And so they didn't dare take me on.
Oh, for fuck's sake!
Yeah.
Oh, I just fucking hate this world.
So do I. Yeah.
Oh, fuck, man. Really? Is that what? That is. My God. I was listening to Sam's podcast today, and it's all about this woman who made this movie called Jihad Rehab, and then he tells the story magnificently. Of course, you should talk to him about it. this brilliant documentary that was really apolitical, trying to understand one of those Guantanamo Bay detainees who we captured in Afghanistan, and then they would release them back to Saudi Arabia, where they went to terrorist rehab. Not that some of them were terrorists to begin with, really. But she's just, it's a very human story. And of course, the usual suspects, just, Islamophobia. They wouldn't even have to see it. It's just, we've come to this place where you can't even go near certain topics, without the mob coming after you.
Yes. Well, I was counseled by KPFA, which is a radio station in Berkeley, California, a few years ago for Islamophobia.
Right.
Because I object to stoning gays to death.
It's so insane how backward their thinking is, and the people who are purporting to uphold liberalism, and then they can't condemn just the women thing. If it was and it's way more than the women. It's free speech, it's separation of church and state, it's homophobia, like you say. But if it was just the women, if there was just a society that decided tomorrow to throw a fucking burlap bag over every woman, like head to toe, like a tarp on a motorboat, and and the liberals, what would you say about that, liberals, if it was the news in the paper tomorrow? Iran to begin covering women completely. Would we just, okay, well,
Well, they're terrified of being thought racist.
That's it.
Yeah.
It's just this, what do you make of that? This, I guess we need to have a psychiatrist here to answer that, but I feel like, especially this country, there is a segment of white people that, liberal white people, for them, it's almost like a kink, like sadomasochism, like this white loathing. This
guilt. It's original sin.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. But it's religion is a crazy thing to begin with. I know we agree on that, but it's a crazy thing just psychologically to want to create either like a God who's always disappointed in you. Aren't there enough people in your life who are disappointed in you for real? Do you really have to create a new person who's disappointed in you, But also to fucking hate on yourself so much for stuff you didn't do. Like, I acknowledge my race, the white people, were bad in this country to the black people. But, my people didn't get here till after the Civil War, the Irish. They weren't themselves exactly welcomed. They didn't have it as bad. No, nobody had it as bad.
Well, even if it was your people, you as an individual.
Right. That's the thing.
Yeah.
So I think we're always trying to find some balance between how can I acknowledge my race's guilt and recompense people in some way for forcing them to live in a lesser version of this country while I didn't have to live there. I acknowledge being my age when I was a kid, it was just very different than it is now. And there was way more racism. There's still racism for sure, but it was just a very different world. England, I know, is different because I was there in 1984 and London was a completely white city. I remember walking through the streets of London. Now it looks like New York, for the better.
Yes, indeed.
And you have a new prime minister who's the first Indian.
That's correct, yes.
That's kind of exciting.
Yes, well, he's not my party, but at least we've got somebody we've got a grown-up who understands how the world works now.
Right. What the fuck was that? That lady for 6 weeks?
Well, the reason for that was that the Tory party handed over the decision to 170,000 party members around the country. What a crazy thing to do. You were going to get, they're all crazy right-wingers, and of course they elected her.
So England has crazy right-wingers? I feel, maybe I haven't caught up.
Well, it only takes 170,000 of them all around the country. The decision to choose the next prime minister was handed over to this minute minority of people the party members. That's the Tory
But I
party
mean, I
constitution.
know I'm sure there are crazy right-wingers among the population. I meant like of the members of parliament. Do you have people like Marjorie Taylor Greene?
No, but Liz Truss economically is the nearest approach, and so she was the favourite of the party members. I mean, constitutionally, it should be the members of. It's constitutionally, it's anybody who can command a majority of the House of Commons, and so theoretically, the King summons whoever can command a majority in the House of Commons. But the Tory party and the Labour Party too, actually, hands over the decision to the party members, who are just people who've paid their subscription. They're just and not that many of them.
But don't you think your system is still better than ours? Like the fact that with a parliamentary system, that these changes take place so quickly, whereas in our country, it's lumbering. It's every 4 years, like on a certain day, as opposed to calling an election.
I think it's unfortunate to have it on a certain day, because then they start electioneering.
They never stop.
2 years.
Right. But also, if you've lost faith in a guy in your system, they go. In our system, the guy's still around.
Yes.
Now, of course, that can work in a bad way too, because maybe somebody just needs a little time. I mean, they didn't give that lady much time to get out of the hole she dug.
She caused such utter chaos. I mean,
I know,
but I think the American system would be better if you got rid of the Electoral College.
Right.
And
I know.
I would think probably get rid of the primary elections as well.
Yeah, oh, no, and gerrymandering. I mean, the whole thing is a complete shit show. And it's, very, very likely Trump will be president again.
Oh,
either he will.
I cannot believe that.
He's definitely going to run. He will either win, or even if he doesn't, I promise you, he's going to show up on Inauguration Day.
Yes. Well, I mean, if it's rigged, if his supporters in individual states can just simply decide that.
And there's a lot of that going on. Yeah. We're about to elect a Congress that is going to be majority election deniers.
That is terrible. I mean, I cannot understand how this has happened. I cannot understand how.
Right.
Obvious lie.
It's not exactly unprecedented. When Germany, not that we're Germany, we're not Nazis, not yet, not quite. Okay. When Germany went down the Hitler rabbit hole, there was a lot written about how could the nation of Schiller and Schopenhauer and Beethoven and Goethe, how could this, because it was not like it was a bunch of dummies, how could they,
Well, they'd been hit by draconian reparations for the First World War. There was inflation such that people were carrying wheelbarrows full of worthless marks to buy a loaf of bread.
Right.
Under those conditions, in a way, it's not surprising that a Hitler the full horror of Hitler was not then known.
And the cost of wheelbarrows was because you couldn't even get the fucking big pile of money there without a wheelbarrow. Wheelbarrows, that's the first thing you hit.
Yes.
Before you even got a car, you got a wheelbarrow.
That's not America today. I mean, America is not suffering from rampant inflation like that.
Well, they think they are. No, that's exactly what the issue is in this election.
They think they are, yes.
Yeah. Well, they are, but it's not. No, it's not like wheelbarrow inflation or what they're going through in Venezuela. But, we're such babies. Yes. And of course, I shouldn't talk because I'm well off now, so I don't feel inflation. I certainly had times in my life when I did, where I was poor. Were you ever poor?
No, I couldn't.
Really? Never poor?
No, I don't think so.
Middle class?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
And where'd you go to college? I mean, university, whatever.
Oxford.
Oxford. Is that the Harry Potter one?
Everywhere you go in England is Harry Potter, Harry Potter, Harry Potter. And mind you, I love J.K. Rowling, but
well, she's in big trouble.
Yes.
She's
brave.
Exactly, like you, but another person canceled, or like certainly put on this not
just cancelled, but death threats and
yes,
and unbelievable hostility.
And all because she believes that there's sort of like a default setting for humans, which would be man and woman. And we, liberal people acknowledge, yes, it's not always that way. Of course there's homosexuality. Of course sometimes there's a mix-up at the factory and the genitalia don't match the, usual use of them. But I've never I've never witnessed a generation that was so anxious to sort of just abrogate the whole thing. Like when you have a baby, it's just like, we don't know. Could be anything. I mean, there's a penis there, but that really tells you
It's just
nothing.
a social construct.
Right. That tells you very little.
Yes, yeah.
A penis,
Yeah.
it's it's like a sixth toe.
Yes.
It's a vestigial appendage of not much use.
Yes.
No, but isn't that her whole thing?
I think she objects to debauching language and saying, if somebody just says they're a woman, they are a woman.
Right. Right. Well,
but she and I are sympathetic towards people with gender dysphoria. But
of course,
I dislike the debauching of language and saying.
And this is always my gripe, is when people say, well, aren't the woke and liberals the same thing? No. They're very often opposites. Like you say, this is the liberal position. We're very, compassion is our byword.
Exactly.
So it's not that we're lacking compassion.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, boy, the people who go, they don't believe in science. Yeah, we used to say that about the right-wingers and global warming, which is still true about them. But the left is catching up in their ways, too. I mean, there are things going on at medical schools in this country that are pretty crazy. I mean, doctors apologizing for saying the phrase pregnant woman.
Oh, yes. Yes.
I mean, that's got to bug you.
It's going to change.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, colleges are, what was your experience in academia? Did you find it too, ethereal, a little too pie in the sky, where people were in their ivory towers? They weren't realistic enough. That's the reputation.
Yes, probably true. I like ivory towers. I mean,
Of course you do.
I like. I'm fascinated by things that are for all, the whole universe and for all time. I mean, I'm not interested in parochial little frivolous things that concern humanity.
No, you're probably. John McWhorter always says, I'll do your interview. I love doing your show, but I just know I'd always really rather be sitting in my chair reading a book.
Yes.
And
I've never met him. I would like
he's
to.
fantastic. John McWhorter.
I admire him very much.
Oh, he's fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, no, it's not like the world and the country, even dumb old America. It's not like we don't have a nice, group of thinkers and smart thinkers and common sense thinkers. It's just that everything is so polarized that if you're the person in the middle without a team, you are really, going into battle ungirded.
Yes.
And yeah. I can see why you would not want to go on a book tour, by the way. I know you said you would.
Oh, no, I don't mind going on book tours.
I know.
I enjoyed, I used to enjoy going to the Deep South as well.
So did Hitchens.
Yes.
Hitchens loved the Deep South and said that atheist got huge crowds.
Yes.
Yeah.
I got huge crowds. They come because they're beleaguered. They come because they they get a chance to see who is there in their own tribe, I guess.
That's why I love doing stand-up comedy in the South and places like that.
Yes.
And that's most of the country.
Yes.
And they don't have a stick up their ass about political correctness.
Yeah.
There's lots of liberals in Oklahoma.
Yes.
But you're right that you come to town, they come out of the woodwork.
Yes. Yeah.
Otherwise, they're quiet because they're surrounded by a bunch of rednecks, Trumpers, and we're gotten to this place in this country where, you can't really mix with the people who are not in your tribe. Like if you wore a Trump MAGA hat, in Beverly Hills, they'd ticket you or something.
Yes.
You know, I mean, that's a sad state of affairs. A country
Yes.
can't, you know.
Do you think? I mean, we're not surely not talking about a second civil war, but there's such a polarization.
There's much talk about it.
Mm.
There's much talk about it, and there's lots of people rooting for it. There's many people who think that we are so divided and they hate the other side. The term that both sides use, one against the other, but they have this in common, is existential threat.
Yes.
The other side is, they're not just somebody I disagree with. It's just not the distinguished gentleman from across the aisle. No, no, no. It's existential threat, hates America.
Yeah.
And that's a bad,
But there couldn't really be. I mean, in the first Civil War in America, it was between states, and so each state picked a side, and each state had its own militia.
And also there was a border between one side and the other. So
Yes.
if you captured the other side's,
Yes.
you know.
But in America now, the armed forces are federal.
Yes.
And so
Well,
you couldn't imagine having a civil war.
you could. You absolutely could imagine that part of it. The part that you can't imagine is the part you were just alluding to. In our first Civil War, it was the northern states and then the southern states. So, you know, there were forays of each army into the other's territory. But we got it. If they captured Washington, they'd win the war. And if we captured the southern capital, we would. We're all marbled together now. There's 4 million Trump voters in California, the bluest state in the country. So we can't have a battle there. But could you have a battle, as many countries have, within the armed forces? Absolutely you could. You could have factions. Trump has factions also in police, FBI. Yes.
I never know how that works, because would they obey their officers, or would they each?
Well, that's what you find out when the shit hits the fan.
Mm.
And we've seen that play out in many other countries. You know, some colonel takes over.
Yes.
You know, that kind of shit, where it's a colonel now.
Yeah.
Everything that they say can't happen here, of course it can. They used to say terrorism couldn't happen here, and then that happened big time here. You know, and we're not exempt. You know, we're Americans. They think their shit don't stink, and they think that they somehow live in this gilded cage where the stuff that other countries endure, well, no, we'll endure it too. And that could include authoritarianism. And I don't know, you know.
Well, I wish the Russian army would turn on. I mean, I wish they'd mutiny and turn on Putin.
That could very well happen.
I wish it would.
Because the Russian army, I mean, there are reports of no shoes. I mean, like really bad shit.
Yes, yeah.
I mean, we give our soldiers pretty good equipment.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, so if you were doing a book tour and you were on a normal show, unlike this crazy show where we just ramble, but I think it's much more interesting, and I'm loving being able to talk to you like this. But what's your thing with this? When the guy says, "How are you going to sell this book?" What do you say to
Oh,
that?
I see.
Yeah. I'm trying to help you with it.
Yes. Well, it's a book for young people.
Oh, it is?
It kind of grew out of, I did an earlier book for young people called The Magic of Reality.
Oh, I know.
You know that one?
Yeah, it's perfect for my level.
Well, as you know, each chapter in that asks a question, and then it has mythological answers and then scientific answers.
So this is for, what ages are we talking about?
About 12, 13, 14, 15, and then up.
Yeah.
And so I thought of this as starting a new version of The Magic of Reality, and it kind of grew. This was going to be one chapter of that new volume, and then it grew into a whole book.
So, like, the kids who are, like, playing Twitch, do you know what Twitch is?
No.
Oh, now you put me on the spot. I have to fucking explain it to you.
It's a game.
You know what? It's not a game. It's people watching people play a game.
Oh.
Yeah, that's what it basically is.
Yes.
That's like a sport to them, watching other people play a video game. Can you believe that?
I cannot.
So, like, how do you get someone away from Twitch to read a book? That's my question. I feel like we are devolving into a completely brain-rewired society because of the phone. The phone is the portal to evil. I really believe that.
I must say I'm delighted to meet somebody who called himself a fan, but I'm a little bit disappointed when they say, oh, I've seen your videos, I've seen your YouTube,
Oh,
but
sure.
rather than read my
Right.
books. I say, well, please go and read my books. They're much
Right.
better.
Right. But that's the world we live in.
Yes.
I mean, you can't, I mean, we can't go back, I mean, it's like going back to the, you know.
But I really slave away at getting every sentence right.
I do too.
And you can't do that when you're just
No. Oh, I know.
doing a film.
Oh, I know. No, I luckily get to do both because I slave away getting every word right for the ending piece.
Yeah, which
especially
I love,
do
by the
on my
way.
show.
I love it. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. But then I get to actually perform it, so I kind of have the best of both worlds because the people who would never read it can see it. But the pleasure of taking something and getting it, you know,
Word perfect.
Word perfect.
Yes.
Exactly. Was I think
Yeah.
the name of the software I had when I
Yeah,
first
it
wrote
was
a
one of
script.
the early
Word
ones.
perfect.
That's right. Yes.
But
Yeah.
and you know, that's why I like doing a show once a week, because I can take, you know, Monday first draft, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, you know, like each day gets better.
Yes.
And then, you know,
Yes.
I suppose there are some people who can think in a way that I can't. I mean, rappers can write songs as they speak. They can rhyme as they speak. That's an amazing talent to me. Some people can speak almost in marble prose, whereas I have to go over it.
Shakespeare must have done, actually, because he produced so much, and all in blank verse. It must have come totally naturally to him, I think.
Well, I mean, he lived to be 64.
Mm-hmm.
He wrote 37 plays. Okay, so let's say he started at 20. That's less than a play a year. I don't.
Okay. Yes. Okay.
Did-
Putting it in verse,
didn't-
it's quite.
But it's not all in verse.
Mostly.
Well, no, not the plays. The act ends with a couplet.
No. It's blank verse. It's not rhyming.
Okay.
It's only the couplet rhymes, but the rest of it.
Oh, you're talking the meter.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I can't do that.
Well, I bet you could.
Maybe. Yeah.
Um,
Do you write your own stuff?
well, I mean, I certainly am the head writer.
Yes.
As far as that part of it goes.
Yeah.
Because I like to, you know, has to be my voice exactly.
Make it word perfect.
But I have a wonderful, incredible staff who
Yes.
are amazingly supportive.
Yes.
You know, I usually come up with whatever notion I want to do, but sometimes they do. And then they all submit a draft, and I go through and find stuff theirs that's brilliant and steal it. It's one of the great things about having a writing staff. It's like you're a legal thief.
Yes.
Of other people's ideas and brilliance.
Yeah.
So it's not really right, but I'm not giving it up. But okay, so this book is for kids.
Well, when I say
Tweens.
kids, tweens, yes, but adults too, and I think a lot of adults seem to enjoy it.
You don't have to sell this country on the idea of adults acting like kids.
Yeah, I know.
We do it everywhere.
Yes, I know. Yes.
Well, must be a fascinating topic for kids. Air travel, because they like kids that automatically love planes or anything that kites, anything that flies, you know.
Yes.
So
and the physics of it is the same for birds, and I mean, after all, physics is just physics, and so if you want to stay up there, you've got to obey the laws of physics, but they do it in a rather different way. I mean, planes have fixed wings and birds have mobile wings. It's much more complicated, actually.
Well, I hope this is a huge hit for you. There's a lot, I want to prepare you, there's a lot of kids in this country who are just really dumb. So you are not going to be able to hit the entire market. But I always think that the people who are really smart, like the top 1%, there's nothing you can do to kill it. Like you could have the worst education system in the world. Somehow that top 1% always finds a way to learn. It's almost like osmosis. Stuff either sticks and gets on their radar. Some people, just lots of stuff sticks in there.
Yes.
And some, it all bounces off.
Yes.
There's a lot of bouncing off here, but hopefully, Yeah, and adults too. I can't wait to get my hands on it. I have all your books.
Oh, I wish do we have a copy of it? I should have brought one. I don't think I have one with me.
Yeah,
I'd love to give you one.
that's so
Damn.
perfect for you. You're a terrible salesman, as you should be.
I'm
You're
a terrible salesman.
You're a genius.
Yeah.
You're a intellectual, and you're a bad man.
I'm a
And I
bad
mean
sa-
that in
bad
a
sa-
pot, and
okay.
I mean that in the best way.
I'm a terrible salesman. Well, let me try to sell CFI to you and the things we do. I'll try and be a salesman. It is very.
Yeah, you don't have
it
to sell
doesn't-
me. I'll be there.
Okay. Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. I got to do Sam now.
Okay,
It's so
well,
great to see you. And
You'll have great fun with Sam. He's great.
I hope you enjoyed yourself and this wasn't too
Certainly
crazy.
enjoyed
All right.
myself very much.
All right.
Always a pleasure to meet you.
Club Random.
What's the pool table for?
That's for pool.
Recreation?
Of course.
Club Random.